Locked and loaded, off and running from the starting gate on this beautiful Friday afternoon here at Gulfstream Park. December 22nd on Gulfstream today. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett alongside. We are fast, we are firm, and we are all good. In fact, better than good as we get into this Christmas weekend here at Gulfstream.
It is pretty crazy to think about it. Yesterday being the first day of winter, Sunday, Christmas Eve. Do note we are racing on Sunday, so do hope you will join us. And Merry Christmas if you are celebrating, but we're getting ready to wrap up this 2017 year, which is pretty crazy, but we have lots more good racing coming up.
10 races today, 11 tomorrow, including the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector that features the returning fragile but very classy and returning XY Jet, and then another 10-race program on Sunday afternoon. But the Mr. Prospector grabs the headlines this Christmas weekend at Gulfstream. Very pumped to see XY Jet back, and what will he do tomorrow?
It will really be interesting. I was just looking back through some replays and watching his win of the 2015 Mr. Prospector. So he is trying to come back for that title once again. It's been a while since he last raced, but speaking to trainer Jorge Navarro yesterday, he said he's excited, and he said he's never been better. So pretty interesting to see what we'll get from him on Saturday.
And what will we get from Ron Nicoletti in today's free-to-play, by the way, Beat the Expert program and game over on our Gulfstream Park Facebook page. Play for free. Try to pick more winners than the one and only Ron Nicoletti, and if you do, you will have a shot to win one of those great navy blue Gulfstream polos.
And you know what? It's been difficult lately, but that does make me nervous about today, because that normally seems to be the curse. If you're doing well, then Beat the Expert Day has been a tough day for us. But that being said, it's a lot of fun. We love that you guys play. Please tweet at us. Let us know that you're playing. Use hashtag #BeatTheExpert. Go to our Facebook page and try to pick more winners than Ronnie, who's been on fire lately.
No, Ronnie has been white hot. We've talked and joked about incorporating maybe some of those fire or flame emojis for both Todd Pletcher and Luis Saez. We might have to give a few to Ron Nicoletti as well, who on Wednesday was close to unbeatable. He had, I think, 6 or 7 winners and a number of good prices. Now, what does today hold? We'll find out. But we can tell you in absolutes that we have a number of terrific multi-race wagers on tap today, including the starting point of the program at around 12:35, the 50-cent early pick 5. It takes a little while, though, to get into the first high 5 on the afternoon, but the 5th race, boy, is that action-packed.
We did have some scratches early on the card today, but as you said, action-packed in race number 5. It starts the rolling super high 5, and it also starts today's Rainbow 6, 219, nearly $220,000 in the pool just to start things off. A really good carryover, and then the 6th race will be the 50-cent late pick 5.
Absolutely, and plenty of turf on the card. A featured West Point Thoroughbreds race of the day that goes as the 3rd, and that is perhaps one of the strongest races on the card. In fact, in my opinion, the strongest race on the card, a pretty competitive $25,000 claimer. And off that, I'm curious to hear and see who you used in your pick 5.
I had a tough time with these multi-race sequences today and kind
Welcome
of narrowing
to the club,
down.
all right?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to find a single was tough for me. And using 2 horses to start things off, we did have a few key scratches. I think Mr. Papillon on the drop, and then potentially another softball, though he's 0 for 13. But the barn of Joe Catney's has been going very well lately. In the 2nd race, it looks like it's going to be a speedy affair in here, so I'll be really curious to see how things do shake out pace-wise. Of course, Zing Zing, we know he's going to be on the engine from the outside, as well as a couple others. In race number 3, I'm going to use 3 horses. That's that race that you alluded to already. We've got some older, just honest horses coming out of the Claiming Crown, several of them. Really nice race, and a nice one in the 4th as well. We have Top Barnes with a strong hand. That's really the best way to put it. You have Chad Brown, you have Mark Cassie, and even a nice Todd Pletcher, first-time starter, though debuting for the tag. In the 5th race, I really like Breakaway in here. Wondering if she will take to the dirt is the question. I'll back myself up with Arella Princess on the drop-in class.
Luis Saez riding the 2 Breakaway in that cash-out leg number 5 of the early pick 5. But let's not rush things. Let's savor every race, every piece of the puzzle as we begin without further ado. And we talk about a first race today that is down to a field of a half a dozen due to a couple of scratches. And there were a couple of key defections, to be fair, throughout the card today, and more on that as this show progresses. But for the record, $20,000 3-and-up maiden claimers ringing the action, and the favorite, I think, no matter what, stayed in. That's the 6, Mr. Papillon, who's never run this cheaply on the turf before and catches a main threat to him even early on. They're both sub 2-1. He's lightly raced, whereas the 7, another softball, is 0 for the Baker's dozen.
That's why I did end up going on the 6, Mr. Papillon. Tyler Gaffalione going to climb aboard, as never run for this level before. And though another softball is 0 for 13, and the last race was disappointing, prior to that he was running very solidly and has been very consistent. So we'll see what we get from him today. Just might meet the right field.
Yeah, I think it is the right field with Gaffalione and Mr. Papillon for trainer Gilberto Zerpa, who's got a legit chance at a very short price chance. Maybe not as short as that double in races 3 and 4 yesterday that paid $4.20. Had it ice cold, by the way. And Santiamen, 75 buyer, so he ran a little faster. What'd you think of his win, though, as the sort of marquee horse on yesterday's card?
It wasn't as visually easy as his debut race. He had to work for it a little bit, in fact, trying to run down his stablemate Empire Power, but I think that he's going to improve as the distances progress, and speaking to the connections afterwards, they were happy with it and think he's certainly a horse on the upswing.
All right, fair enough. As we get on to race number 2, you could take out the 1 Salsa Cappuccino from the rail. That leaves us with a field of 6 with this 2-year-old $12,500 maiden claimer. And we do get on, or just open claimer, excuse me. You do have winners in here. And one of those winners is the outside speed in Zing Zing, who early on is trying to cap a Zerpa double that's paying a whopping $7. Now, you talk about a horse who, that old phrase, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. That last race tells the tale, and we'll backtrack, in fact, a little more than a month ago, about 5 weeks ago, over in Miami Gardens. And Zing Zing, aptly named, because this horse can flat out fly, relatively speaking, early on, did his thing. Now, I do think, even though we saw a number of days where speed was pretty good at Gulfstream West and deep closers had a tough time winning, I think historically, this kind of running style, and he starts to hit the brakes here. He is getting very tired, and you can see Misael Jaramillo all over him, trying to get him back on that outside lead, just trying to hold him together, and in the end, just a half a head or so shy. He went from 1st to 3rd in the blink of an eye in that race, or 2nd, I should say, just missed 3rd by a head. But anyway, I think his running style, willing to go back to him today off that disappointing loss, because I feel as though his running style works as a whole a bit better. Speed tends to hold better on this main track.
And that's certainly fair. He will have, I think, some other pace presence to deal with in here. I don't think he'll be alone on the front end as comfortably as he was in the early part of last time out. That being said, I think he's the fastest horse in this race, and he was bred by Wesley Ward. He certainly showed that speed in his first couple of starts, in fact, taking money in all 3 of his starts to date. It was a sloppy track at Gulfstream West last time. It is kind of a heavier, more tiring track, but he was really struggling in the latter part of the race. A horse that I think was on the upswing, and yes, he showed a lot of speed last time, is the number 6 Ed's Rocket. But I just remember looking at him physically, being in paddock at Gulfstream West that day, and he just had really developed nicely. They gelded him. Things had just kind of all fallen together. It was like the light switch was turned on. And I remember Armando de la Cerda saying beforehand that he thought this horse had a good shot to win, and when he did, at a big price. I don't think he's the type that needs to be on the lead, and the fact that they reach out for Luis Saez after that win, after gelding him, it looks like he's moving in the right direction.
All right, I'm not going to. I didn't put him in the top 4. I'm not going to knock anybody that takes a horse at a good price by Maltese Dog, who picks
your
up
favorite.
my favorite stallion and picks up the leading rider here at Gulfstream Park to boot in Mr. Luis Saez. The other key pace rival, not to spend 20 hours on the second race, the number 2 Wizard Willie, who does need to be discussed as he is a new face coming back from Tampa, so to speak, and he's one of the keys early because he's the one that could really make life difficult and push Zing Zing early on.
He could. He's beaten Zing Zing before. They both clashed heads in their debut race, and it was Wizard Willie that got the win that day.
All right, let's move on to race number 3. We are on the main, stretching out to 1 mile in this 3 and up $25,000 claiming race. 10 claimers on the card today, but this one, I think, maybe the classiest crew, and as far as prior wins go and lifetime win photos, I mean, you've got a combined 39 victories with this field of 6, and just about everybody has a chance to make some noise here. Now, why don't we talk about the horse that I've got second, you've got third, the number 2 Fearless Dragon, who one turn, he's back to, I think, his element today. One turn seems to be the sweet spot for this son of Speightstown, who even going 2 back, and you can get a sense of just how that quote-unquote rainy season, how much it rained throughout October and a good chunk of November here in South Florida. A lot of wet tracks over at GPW, and that win 2 back with the Fearless Dragon was a good race. And when he gets things going his way, as in a contested pace, he is capable of a sustained and fairly strong closing kick as he tips way out into the middle of the track at GPW.
He did, and I thought this was a really impressive finish from him. He's a really solid horse. I didn't like him going the 9 furlongs last time in the Claiming Crown Jewel, and I thought he was just potentially running against tougher horses. But
oh, yeah.
he was a big price last time. He's back in where he belongs right now. And that's the beauty of the Claiming Crown. You have a horse that potentially fits, you have to take a shot, because these are really the backbone of the game. This is where he belongs. Abby Medina stays in the saddle. I'm just hoping with Bernardo Lopez reaching out for Edgar Zayas that the 3 Jaden's Best will just wire the field. He too is turning back in distance. He's a 4-time winner, going the 1-turn mile. And likes it here at Gulfstream as well, and we'll see if his speed can carry him.
Back to reality today, and in a way, I think he's the biggest wild card in race 3. I would call off his last 3. Now, I know he was way overmatched against Mr. Jordan, and even they took a shot in the Claiming Crown Iron Horse, and he was almost 55-1. His effort 3 back worries me a bit, because historically, this is a horse who's run well on off tracks, and he didn't lift a hoof on October 5th. He's the speed, pivotal race for Jaden's Best. Would love to see him turn it around. We're big fans of his. It's hard not to follow the racing in South Florida and not have a ton of respect for Jaden's Best. Now, the 5, Payton, gets the blinkers on, second off the claim for Mike Maker. This is kind of a twofold thing where Maker's got tremendous numbers second off the claim. In fact, he's got 98 wins from a 338 starter sample for just under 30% with all-inclusive second-time off the claim horses. And I also feel this horse, I'm going to give him a pass for that 2-turn race over at GPW, his South Florida debut. He's been much more of a 7/8, 1-turn kind of long-winded sprinter, and he gets that today in this elongated 1-turn mile.
He has. I think that this is really where it's going to suit him best. I do like that the blinkers go on. He had some trouble braking a couple starts back where he broke in the air. They've rested him up a little bit since November 5th, and so bringing him back now at the end of December, it looks like this was kind of the type of race they were looking for.
No, it's a good crew of horses. Again, you talk about the Claiming Crown type runners, heart and soul of the game right here. The real bread and butter and backbone set the battle in race 3. The West Point Thoroughbreds featured race on the card. 4th race in the meantime as we get onto the turf. Field of 5 after a couple of defections, and in this $50,000 to $40,000 3-and-up maiden claimer, we might just have the shortest price favorite on the card in the number 2 Wage Acceleration, who with this horse a week and a half out from his 5-year-old birthday, and the fact that he's only run a handful of times, I think Chad is just saying he's in for the 50. Someone wants him, take him. If not, we want to win the race. And he looks, even though he's lost some close ones, he just looks better.
He does. In his only time where he's been exposed for the tag, he was only beaten in nose, and he showed a lot of speed that day on the turf at Saratoga. What does concern me is, you're right, he is rounding out his 4-year-old season. He's only run 5 times. They've been spread out through 2017 with some gaps in his form. But here's the stat on the barn. We normally don't think of this being an operation kind of running consistently in the claiming ranks, but in the past 5 years, going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming on the turf, not a huge sample size and a very good number. So this actually is a move that is very good for the Chad Brown barn. There are some other ones, potentially first-time starters on the turf in maiden claiming races, that are not good numbers for this barn. But this kind of drop is good, and I hope he shows that speed that he did 2 back.
All right, leading trader Todd Pletcher has Sumner, the firster by Union Rags, and you have a filly trying 4 Colts and Geldings, and the 6 Miss Munnings, who's never stepped up outside female restricted competition, but certainly fits for trainer John Kimmel, who had a win here last weekend to get on the board, and certainly nice to see John Kimmel with us in South Florida. But on this Friday, 2nd day of the winter solstice, we've got a rainbow to catch. So we'll take a little breather, Acacia and I, with you after this break.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact, leading the way in testing and aftercare. Only 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup champions. Plus, we have North America's most lucrative awards program, up to 40% in breeder awards and owner bonuses, 400 plus restricted races annually, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 5th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania, it's a winner.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
4 down on this gorgeous Friday, December 22nd here at Gulfstream Park. Keisha and Jason, a hearty welcome back. Second segment of Gulfstream today, and that means it's time. Little Rainbow Six, what are we doing?
Well, we have a great carryover today, nearly 220,000. We'll show you my ticket, and as I said, I had a little bit of a tough time with these multi-race wagers. I'm using Breakaway and Arella Princess, which is the cash out of the early pick 5, as well as the beginning of the late pick 6. We had, I think, some key scratches throughout this sequence, the first of which being Little Baker in race number 6. So I'm using 3 horses in there. I'm hoping that my buddy Swagger can get out of second gear and get the win today. Going to be using just 2 horses in the 7th race this afternoon in Here's to Mike and Tale of Fancy. I have a closer and the speed, I think. Race number 8 using 2 as well. That's a pretty interesting claiming event with some horses either turning back in distance or coming off impressive maiden wins. Hopefully we get down to the 9th race. I think Saving Time might be the sneaky one today. I'm going to try and wake her up this afternoon. And then just 2 deep, hopefully we get to the 9th race, 28.80 for me.
All right, race 10 caps this December 22nd program, and even a nice price for you, I see, with Luis Saez from the rail. Very tricky 10th race, by the way. We were discussing that a little right before the show began. There are many ways to go in race 10, but that's way down the line. Race number 5 that did have that major early defection of the inside horse, the number 1 Diplomatic Affair. In fact, Ralph Zadie had a couple of key defections in the next couple of races, the 5th and the 6th. But you're a fan of the number 2 Breakaway, and maybe, just maybe, I guess you're going to argue that she's been on the wrong surface for a good chunk of her career.
Well, it certainly could be, and she's the type of mare that she just runs to her competition, and that's what I like about her. I'm going to hope that Armando has a big day today, because I like one of his horses earlier on as well. She's by Any Given Saturday, the only sibling to win, was a winner on the dirt. So I'm just hoping that she does end up taking that wet track form to the fast main track, because her only sealed sloppy track race was incredibly impressive. She won by 9.5.
Yeah, she beat very little, but galloped away. That was almost a paid public workout. We'll learn a bit more about Breakaway. Now, I had picked Diplomatic Affair on top. With her out, I scratch into the number 5, Rara, who just seems to be in good form. And you know what? I'm not going to hold that last race against her. She got no help at all in her GPW finale right around Thanksgiving, when Artie's Bourbon Girl, who was on a big drop, made the lead in a race loaded with early pace and wired the field. So Rara in good form. I'm going to take her over the 4 Grand Chama. I just love to see the difference of opinion starting out this Rainbow Six.
It is. Well, this is, I think, a race that's really, a lot of horses have a lot to prove, because for me, I thought Rara was more of a Gulfstream Park West horse, and he's over 6 at Gulfstream. So we'll see. I mean, my horse has never really been on a fast main track, and yours has to prove herself at Gulfstream. So that's the type of race that starts today.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're smart, you'll say, you know what, Acacia and Jason's top picks,
out.
Throw them out. Box everybody else. All right, 6th race as we have 5 down and 5 to go. Little Friday, late pick 5 with a field of 7 in this opening leg. A race that I had originally viewed as almost a chalky 2-horse affair between Padilla and Little Baker. Little Baker's gone, so I'm going to single Padilla in a very competitive sequence that sees me using, well, at least 2 horses in the remaining 4 legs. 7th race, I've got the 6 and 9. Are you a fan of Regal Kitten at all today?
I used Regal Kitten in 4th, yes.
Yep, 4th capping your super in race number 7. The 8th race, for me, it boiled down to the 2 outside runners. I used Aristelli's, who's taking a big drop, but Rogue Patriot and U.S. Soldier are the 2 that I like the most.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be a really interesting race as we get down to there. there's another one where you have some horses trying to prove some things.
I love that you use saving time. I had given her a look just with the outside post going 7, and she might get a very contested pace to take a run at. I did not use her, alas, but I went too deep in there. Do you feel Truge might be narrowly the filly to beat in today's 9th race?
I think she's definitely one of the most improved fillies that we have seen in a while. She had kind of stamped herself as a 5 furlong, or excuse me, as a 6 furlong, 7 furlong is what I am trying to say. 7 furlong specialist, and she seemed to be one that really liked an off track, and then she proved that she could kind of run on anything. So she's coming in good form for a very good trainer.
Zeus Odin and Stoneheart, 2 fair prices in the last. I know Stoneheart, and as you can see, he warranted a comment of his own in race 10 to end this $18 spread. But I feel as though even though he's very inconsistent, if he shows up with close to his A game, he's got every right, assuming he pulls an okay trip, to be right there in what could be an absolute cavalcade down to the finish line in today's last race. So we begin with no Little Baker, who figured to vie for favoritism with the 6-horse Padilla, who with trainer Aubrey Mirage on a pretty good run. He's got 3 wins from only 9 starters at the meet. I'm just going to roll the dice here and say, you know what? I'm calling a class edge sprinting on the turf with the 6 Padilla. I'm hoping he gets enough pace to run at. That's the main question. And your horse Swagger won't have to worry about that.
No, he won't, and that's my hope. And, you know, I've been a fan of Swagger for a while. I picked him last time. I think it was actually even Beat the Expert Day, and, of course, I was beaten by half a length. So Swagger is the one that I did land on, and here's just a stat on the barn. Antonio Chaffee in the past 5 years on the turf with horses in the money last time out. He bats at 23%, and it's a good ROI of $3.20. You're not going to get as good a price on this horse with the scratch of Little Baker and given his running style. That being said, Padilla certainly has the class. I'm looking forward to the rematch of Oak Bluffs and Star Navigator this weekend coming out of that Canterbury race band Paney Price.
All right, sounds good. And we also welcome Luis Carvajal with us today, junior at Gulfstream Park. Of course, his claim to fame, and rightfully so, in a big way, Imperial Hint, who's one of the best sprinters in the country. We're proud to have him as our most recent winner of the Smile Sprint back on Summer Speed Day, July 1st. And Black Jet, who I was a little disappointed to see that he's actually a dark bay or brown horse and not black, a rare black thoroughbred. He's a major player, too, shipping in.
He certainly is. Ashley Crescenzi going to be in the saddle. He's coming off of a solid race at Laurel last time. We'll see if he can transfer that form.
All right, good trainer there. Under the radar for sure, but a very good horseman who's just done an otherworldly job with Imperial Hint. 7th on the card, folks, as we turn the page. We come up on this $16,000 3-and-up claimer out of 2-turn mile. Features perhaps, and as far as attacking my late pick 5, I felt pretty comfortable using the 6 Tail of Fancy, who I look at as the best speed, and certainly, unless somebody really goes hard early, he's going to be the controlling speed, and the best closer, who I picked on top in the 9 Regal Kitten. Keisha's got the main danger to the 2 I used, who I probably should have also covered my bases with Here's the Mic. But let's show you Tail of Fancy over, and here's the caveat with the horse who's got a ton of back class as we go to his race at GPW on November 19th. He won at 6-5, but again, the caveat is this was a day and a period of time, early speed, and horses with his running style really had a turf-friendly surface over in Miami Gardens.
He was definitely thankful to have the conditions of the turf on that day. But that being said, he ran very well. It was a little bit of a disappointing effort 2 starts back, but I think he was running against much stronger horses. And I do think that he is a talented horse. He held off the closing frontline page in there, and we'll go very quickly to a stat in the past 5 years for Bobby DeBona on the turf with winners last time out. Mid-level claimers, he's 9 for 21. This was actually, and we know obviously this is a good barn, but this was an even better stat than I was expecting with a 299 ROI. That being said, I think we're both of the mindset that he's got to repeat that last race.
And he might have to run a little better. I think there's a little more firepower in this one. Even though he ran for a quarter over at GPW, it's the championship meet, so those claiming levels, they do tend to vary a little bit. And even though you're running for 16, a whole near 10K less, you might be catching a tougher field over over in Hallandale Beach. And I just like the overall form on the year. The 9 Regal Kitten's been really good for really long. And I thought maybe he started to, after winning, what, he win 4 straight races.
Yeah.
I thought he kind of tailed off a little over the summer, but he's back in good form and was beaten by a tough old pro last time out in Purely Boy.
And he got an 81 buyer speed figure for that. And for those who may not be familiar with trainer Yvonne Belsor and owner Bruno Schickendanz, they do extremely well at Tampa and did very well throughout the summer and during Gulfstream Park West here in South Florida. So certainly a sharp horseman on the outside.
All right, fair enough. Little Jane Sabelli with the J-Bred, the little Jersey bred by Go for Gin. I can't remember the last time I've seen a male or a female, a colt or a filly by Go for Gin, which here's to Mike gets a couple of extra cool check marks from me because you just, a lot of fond memories watching him run throughout his career for Nick Zito. Here's to Mike, here's to Go for Gin. What do we like?
All righty, well, I like that Jose Lezcano's in the saddle, and I like that this horse likes Gulfstream Park. 4 starts, 2 wins, 2 thirds, coming off of, I thought, a very good second last time out at Laurel.
All right, and he's got those 2 wins here at Gulfstream Park. Good call there. All right, 8th race on the card. This is the real grudge match between the 2 outside runners, Rogue Patriot and U.S. Soldier. Keisha tried to split them with the number 2 Miago, and if Rogue Patriot and U.S. Soldier are defeated or they don't run 1-2, the main culprit's probably going to be Antonio Sano, who's got Mr. Miago and Aristelli's. You don't get the Mr. Miago reference because you still haven't seen Karate Kid.
No, I haven't.
All right, which is a crying shame and a bit of a crime. But anyway, U.S. Soldier, fast track for us today, good post, and what won me over was the prospects of getting a dry fast track.
That is exactly right. He was on the slop last time out, and he ran okay, but not nearly as well as we were expecting from him. Beaten by a really nice horse in Coal Miner's Son 2 starts back, so if he runs like he did in his debut, could be dangerous today.
All right, little Gullo off the claim. Gary Gullo, one of the good guys and an excellent horseman.
Very well in the championship meet so far.
Yes, he's got 2 wins. He's only run 4. He's won a couple of races, and he's got excellent numbers, even in a big near 160 horse sample off the claim over the last 5 years, and this horse should run very well and maybe upgrade the chances if Zing Zing comes back and holds together and runs a little bit better than he did last time out on December 7th. How about a quick pop to the 2 Miago?
Well, we'll show a stat. This horse was on the outside, actually drew in off the also eligible list to run last time out and ended up winning by 8, so I'm sure that they were pretty happy that it was taken off of the turf. Here's just maiden winners last time out with 2-year-olds on the dirt. As you said, if somebody's going to upset the apple cart, probably going to be Antonio Sano, who has a $2.43 ROI with this kind of move, and Luis Saez in the saddle. I know we say it pretty often, but when you have a guy that's winning 6 on a day and just riding in such good form, I think it's always worth noting.
For one of the best long shot players on this circuit, or trainers, I should say, we like playing his long shots because they overperform and overachieve a lot, and it's the old Union Rags tag team for Antonio, and then you've got 2 by Trap Shot in the race, which I got a kick out of. Those things make me happy. What can I say? All right, 9th race on the card. Last dirt race today on this Friday before Christmas as we come up on this $30,000 to $25,000 3-and-up Filly Mare claimer. Little bummed about Pure Bliss being scratched because she figured to be a almost a dead send from the inside post. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed with the 5 Bellata and the 7 Fergie-licious that the 6 Truge gets that pace she needs. And I feel as though she has just by and large been running against, I'm going to say, significantly better throughout the season for Leo Gabriel Jr.
That's certainly true. I mean, you look back, she was beaten by Rich Mommy, who's just been in unbelievable form. She stamped herself as a horse that could win both on a wet track and a fast track when she got that win at Gulfstream Park West back in October. I think Leo Gabriel Jr. has just kind of figured this filly out, as she did seem to be a bit of a tricky one. As I said, I'm going to take a shot with Saving Time. She has not been in for the tag in a very, very, very long time, and I think it's needed class relief. She ran against Curlin's Approval and Money or Love in the Barely Even last time out. She, I think, has been facing just horses of another level. And the work tab is impressive. Von Herd, maybe one that's a little bit quieter, but I think she's in the right spot, and she is a mare that has a bit of talent.
Yeah, some great points there with a horse who's going to get overlooked, if for no other reason, just because of the under-the-radar, low-profile connections. I may be using that horse. In fact, you sold me. I'm using Saving Time, saving, hopefully, my late pick 5. Race number 10 as we close things out. Curtain comes down with this 3 lifetime 3-and-up Quick one here to end things at 5 furlongs on the turf. I mentioned that the 5 Stoneheart is inconsistent, but that inconsistency from time to time can turn around without any rhyme or reason, and I feel as though if he pulls a good trip, he's got every right to be right there. Your top pick, why don't we get up a few hundred miles to Laurel Racecourse, and we'll backtrack to a little over a month ago with the 9 Speedy Slew, who in a race like this against the locals, and this horse got a great ride that afternoon from Alex Cintron in the Live Oak Red, sat on the rail, angled out, 4 wide, run, will lead in deep stretch, and was just cut down narrowly by the winner of this race. Speedy Slew makes a lot of sense.
He does. I thought this was a really good race, and as you said, it was a perfect ride by Alex Cintron. At Laurel Park, you do want to be closing on the outside. That's just the way that track plays stronger, and you see the number 16, Prince Tonin, just closing like a freight train on the outside, and that is a tough beat. That was a really tough beat. So I'm going to give this one a shot in here. I also, as you said, liked another price on the rail. I think the speed of First Goal, if he can get back onto the turf and hold on to that speedy form, could be key as well. All
right, welcome to the party here in Hamilton Beach. Trainer Michael DePaulo, more of a Woodbine fixture, who's got horses, 2 in fact, in races 9 and 10. We have more than 2. In fact, there's 10 races on this Friday card, so we'll take a little breather. We'll have Ron Nicoletti in the mix. It's Beat the Expert Friday with him, and Expert doesn't do the next guest we have justice. That is the voice of Gulfstream, Pete Aiello, with your scratches and changes.